systems of tuition in the world. Wow, I thought. Ever since Tony Blair, 20 years ago, talked about increasing the number of people at our universities to 50%. For 20 years, I've thought this is madness. And I know you all think I'm unendingly critical of the Prime Minister. Well, actually, I think today she got it about right.
There remains a perception that going to university is really the only desirable route, while going into training is something for other people's children. If we're going to succeed in building a fairer society and a stronger economy, we need to throw away this outdated attitude for good.
I think she's right. I really do genuinely think she's right. I think we do have this very odd form of snobbery. We don't want, for some reason, our children to learn trades and skills. Now, I put it down to, and I was joking when I did it, at one of the manifesto launches in the 2015 general election, I put it down to Maureen Lipman and a British Telecom advert from 1988. Here it is.
Anthony? Oh, congratulations on your exam results.
Grandma, I failed.
You failed? What do you mean you failed?
I failed.
Maths, English, physics, geography, German, woodwork, art. I failed.
You didn't pass anything?
Pottery.
Pottery? Very useful. Anthony, people will always need plates. Anything else?
And sociology.
An ology? He gets an ology and he says he's failed. You get an ology, you're a scientist.
Well, I love that advert. And I said Maureen Lipman was to blame. I didn't mean it, Maureen Lipman. I was actually joking. But I do genuinely believe that over the course of the last 20 years, we've encouraged far too many people to go to university, to learn ologies, to rack up debt, and all of it for no benefit in the workplace whatsoever. I think we perpetrated a massive con upon a very large number of people in this country. And Theresa May today was talking about it. She was also talking about the cost. And of course, this was a very big general election issue. And Labour are still saying, Angela Rayner, their education spokesman, is still saying that Labour would abolish fees and bring back maintenance grants. What they're not saying is what they said back in June, they would abolish all existing levels of student debt. At least I don't think that's what their position is. But as so often with Labour these days, it's not always easy to deduce. One thing for certain, you know, the sort of cries of, oh, Jeremy Corbyn from the students who thought everything was going to be free, all debt was going to be erased. But on this basic question of do we need to place more value on trades and skills and technical courses, if you agree with me that we absolutely do, we've got this wrong, then call me on 0345 6060 973, or maybe you still think a degree is what everybody needs. Without that, you're not going to reach the best in life. Well, if that's how you feel, text to 84850. Or perhaps you can tell me how you, perhaps if you're out there working, you know, making things, doing things, how did you get your foot on the ladder? Was it perhaps a company sponsorship or apprenticeship of some kind? Tell me about it by tweeting using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. And of course, you can watch me on Facebook. I'm live here in London, and you can comment there too. James is a new caller from South Bank. Good evening, James.
Hi, Nigel. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. So what's your is the Prime Minister basically right on this, James, that we are... Because in Germany, you know, if your 16-year-old son or daughter comes home and says, you know, I want to learn a trade or a skill, they crack open the champagne and celebrate. The family are proud of the fact, you know, that those that are going on in the family name will be skilled people. And we seem to rather look down our noses at it, James.
Yeah, well, I've got some experience of that because I'm actually doing a degree apprenticeship myself as an engineer.
Right.
So I work 4 days a week to get my, you know, technical on-the-job training.
Yes.
And I go to university once a week to get my academic qualifications. So I think, on the nose, Theresa May's got it exactly right, which is rare for me to say.
Same here. Same here, James.
I think, yeah, exactly. But I think there needs to be a bit of a balance struck, because in technical professions such as engineering, you still need the academic qualifications to back up the skills you learn on the job, because if you understand how something works, you're going to be able to do it more effectively. Yes,
but of course, James, engineering is not an ology, and you are you are, once you're fully qualified, going to be in a good spot, James, in my view, because we have a massive shortage of qualified, as you well know, engineers in this country. The way you're doing this, basically a company pays you to work for them 4 days a week, or is it a sort of reduced sum of money? How do the finances work, James?
So essentially, as far as I can tell, it's a pretty good wage for somebody my age. It's essentially a full-time salary. I don't want to go throwing out any numbers over the air.
No, sure.
But it's not like a 16-year-old apprenticeship where you get paid pittance. I'm paid well. I can afford my rent and everything.
Yep.
And then they pay using the apprenticeship levy that the government set up. That's how my that's how my university tuition fees are paid for. So I come out with no debt.
Fantastic. Well, I tell you what, James, that's quite an example to a lot of people out there. You've got this very well organised.
Yeah, that's why I called in, because I don't think it's very well known about.
No. So the government actually have been quite helpful in this regard.
Yeah, they have been. After they set up the apprenticeship levy, it's from what I can see, it's encouraging companies like mine to take on more and more apprentices.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's good news to hear. And James, is enough known about this?
Well, that's part of the problem, I think, because quite often I'll be going on a job and then our clients will say, oh, why are you just sending an apprentice? And they're assuming it's like a 16-plus apprentice.
Yep.
So I think the more people that know about these opportunities, A, the more acceptance there will be of apprenticeships, and B, the more people who will apply for them, so companies will make the positions available.
James, interesting, and actually I have to say that one of the arguments during Brexit that I struggled with the most was visiting factories who was saying to me, actually, Mr. Farage, we have to have overseas labour. There aren't enough people in this country qualifying as apprentices in engineering. James, great call. And it was part of the reason why, and by the way, Gerard Batten mentioned this just half an hour ago, part of the reason why, when it comes to the level of student fees, and isn't it funny that the maximum of £9,250 a year has now become the standard amount that university charge for almost whatever course people take. But it does seem to me, it does really seem to me, that with the STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering and medicine, that in these key vocational areas, this country has a desperate chronic shortage. You keep people ring up and say, we need overseas nurses, we need overseas doctors, to which I'm always going to say, why? Why? Actually, we should be training our own people to do these jobs. And James has found a government scheme that actually works, which is quite refreshing, isn't it, really? Degrees, in my view, always trump technical college qualifications. I do have 3 degrees. The 3 degrees, Anastasia from Swiss Cottage. Well, the point that was being made there, Anastasia, on our first caller, was he didn't just need to learn the trade side of it, he had to get an academic qualification as well. So I guess it is horses for courses. I have to say, I prefer to have a mechanic, electrician or plumber to be around than a psychologist, historian or art graduate, says Linda. Well, again, horses for courses. Blimey, Nigel, that's a first. You're saying something positive about Mrs. May. John, I am. I think she got it right today, and it would be really very churlish of me not to say so. Natalie is a new caller from Manchester. Good evening, Natalie.
Good evening, Nigel. It's a pleasure to speak to you. I couldn't actually agree more with you to a certain degree. I mean, I never had the socio or economic background to be able to go to university, and I worked my way up, tooth and claw, starting in hospitality and eventually working at the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence.
Yeah.
I attended the recruitment and selection whilst I was there, the training, and sat on a panel. And I've seen firsthand when they have over 100 applications and you've got an academic that is sat on that panel who will do their recruitment criteria against degree versus the quality, the equivalent experience.
Mm.
And I have seen many a time that they will select that degree ahead of other candidates just to get that shortlisted candidates down.
Well, they're allowed to do that, Natalie, but it's a very subjective.
Yeah.
But it's a very subjective judgment. I have to tell you, Natalie, that when I was in the private sector employing people, I actually discriminated in favour of people that had experience as opposed to those who had a degree. So it can work both ways.
Yeah, it can work both ways. However, when you've got a candidate that has been sat there doing the job for 6 years, and in that particular role, a promotion comes up, and on 2 occasions you go for that job, but you fail against somebody that has come in with their the second job from a degree, and the last sort of experience that they've had is driving a blood van, and then you have to train them up, and they progress, and you're still waiting for that progression opportunity.
Natalie, that is exactly...
interviews I had at that point.
That is exactly, Natalie, I think, what the Prime Minister was talking about today. The Prime Minister was actually saying, let's change the way we think. A degree is not the be-all and end-all. Knowing something, technical, having a skill, having experience matters. And I hope, Natalie, that discrimination against you ends pretty damn quickly. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It is now 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
UKIP now, as a result of events at the weekend, have been through 4 leaders since 2016 and now have an interim 5th. And really, how the mighty have fallen.
Because of us, we won Brexit, and then the political elite was so flabbergasted. What did they say? We've got to get rid of UKIP because the British people are listening.
No, you're getting rid of yourself.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
Sorry, Mrs. Mills. Your boiler needs replacing.
Oh no, what would you recommend?
Well, I see you've got a Bosch washing machine.
Yes, it's never let me down.
Exactly. I'd recommend a Worcester Bosch Green Star 29 CDI. It's really reliable and it's been awarded a Best Buy from Which. And with a Bosch Easy Control, you can even adjust the heating from your phone. So simple, your cat could do it. To find your new boiler, a local installer, and receive up to a 10-year guarantee, search warm as Worcester.
It's time. Time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. With stunning HD video, crisp audio, and instant wireless sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Divorce can be expensive. It affects your finances, assets, home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. It's probably one of the toughest times you'll ever go through. Cordell & Cordell understands these issues and helps men maximise their roles in their children's lives. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
Oops! Spag bowl. But if you're one of millions that experience joint or muscle pain, even cooking can be a tall order, especially at the end of a long day. Turn to Voltarol for targeted pain relief. We're experts in body pain, so whether it's osteoarthritis, joint pain, or you overdid it in the gym or in the kitchen, we can help get you moving again. But it won't do the dishes. Voltarol, the UK's #1 selling pain relief gel.
Based on sales data, Voltarol Emigel P contains diclofenac diethylammonium. Always read the label.
£1 could buy you a mouthful of lager, or about 14.5 chips. Or £1 could buy you a Thunderball ticket for a chance to win £500,000. Bit of a no-brainer, really. Thunderball, only from the National Lottery. For just £1, you could win £500,000. Why not play this Tuesday? Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Do you have a pension? Maybe you've got more than one. How do you know if they're in the right pension funds, making as much money as possible for your retirement? Answer is, you probably don't. At The Pension Works, our fully qualified independent financial advisors could add instant value to your retirement fund. Simply text the word YES to 83222 for your free Pension Works health check. That's YES to 83222 today. Your pensions, working harder with The Pension Works.
Your future is here. The Global Academy, a forward-thinking state school for 14 to 19-year-olds interested in a media career. Visit globalacademy.com to find out more.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
The Prime Minister talks up vocational skills and training and says degrees are not the answer to everything, and, by the way, they're rather too expensive. And for once, I cheer quite loudly. But before we get back to that, a bit of party politics. No, not UKIP, the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland. Now, as you know, Mrs Merkel has been struggling like crazy to form a government. This is because the AfD got 12.6% of the vote, 93 seats in the German parliament. They've upset the apple cart. Merkel is now trying to form a grand coalition with the Social Democrats, the SPD, which were led by Martin Schulz until he had to resign last week. There's now a ballot going on within the SPD to see whether they support the Grand Coalition, so it's by no means certain, actually, that Merkel is going to become the Chancellor all this time on after the election. And today in the opinion polls, the AFD overtook the SPD, AFD now on 16%, SPD on 15.5%, and I would say this to you, that all over Europe we are seeing traditional centre-left, social democrat, gently socialist parties, their share of the vote is diminishing, and there's a new brand and breed of Eurosceptic party that is growing. So there we are. In Germany, the Eurosceptics are now the official opposition party. I don't know how long it'll last, but I think I see a trend. More party politics. UKIP held their EGM on Saturday. The motion that Henry Bolton should be removed as leader, as was recommended unanimously by UKIP's NEC, was passed by roughly a majority of 2-1 of those that turned up in the hall that day, about 1,500 people there and voting. I wasn't particularly surprised by the result. I wasn't there myself. I have to say my general level of interest in UKIP is the lowest it has ever been throughout this 25-year period. Why do I say that? Because I think the individuals are all rubbish? No, I don't actually. I mean, we've just heard Gerard Batten being interviewed by Ian Dale. You may not agree or like with some of the things that he says. I may struggle a bit with one or two of them, but you can't say he's not putting forward an articulate, clear political argument backed up by knowledge. Now, the problem with UKIP is it's got a system of government run by an amateur NEC that in the end, you know, I virtually tore my hair out with, and I don't think until UKIP reforms the way in which it does business, the way in which it organises, the way in which it raises money, I think until it changes those things, however big the opportunities politically that may be created out there, in particular by a Labour Party which has now turned so far away from its clear manifesto about leaving the European Union, leaving the single market, taking back control of our borders. You know, parties are partly about the policies they stand for, but as big as that, as much as that, is the structure, the organisation, the machine itself, and UKIP now, frankly, is in need of very radical fixing. So to all those people who called in yesterday when Jacob nobly took over from me for a couple of hours and thoroughly enjoyed the experience, I think, I would say to those of you who think I'm going to come back as UKIP leader in this contest, I wouldn't even consider it. The party needs to reform fundamentally, or it will continue to flatline. That is my opinion. But back to trades and skills, and Paul in Lymington says something that I agree with completely. He says in Holland you can go to full-time trade school at the age of 14. And Paul, again, I argued that very strongly through a couple of general elections, that for a lot of people, yeah, keep on doing the basics, you know, through GCSE, but, you know, and by that, of course, I mean, you know, maths and English, maybe a language, but actually lots of people are bored witless by school by the age of 14 or 15, start to play truant, don't really develop, and yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with encouraging people much earlier to start learning trades and skills, and to be proud of that. Alex is a brand new caller to LBC from Redhill in Surrey. Good evening, Alex.
Good evening, Nigel. A couple of points to make. Very interesting topic. Firstly, I think in any discussion about qualifications, be they vocational or academic, we have to think about the quality. I think it's fair to say with expansion of higher education, you had a lot of relatively lightweight, not terribly high-value courses. But equally, there's been such considerable change in the format and the implementation of vocational educational qualifications going back perhaps 20 years, but there's inconsistency in quality.
Is that, Alex, because we abolished all the technical schools and we don't quite know where we are?
I think it's possibly because the average length of an education secretary in position is 18 months.
Yeah.
So other than Michael Gove, there tends to be a bit of conveyor belt. I don't imagine that the current guy will be there for very long. He's probably aspiring to a position in the the Treasury or something a bit more prestigious. And I think also, as you've alluded to, there's a big problem with class in terms of thinking about education policy. That's in the background of all of these things. You said that there's a snobbery factor as regarding vocational education qualifications, and it becomes intensely emotional. And related to that, I think my views are slightly different to yours in terms of making vocational choices early on. I'm not really sure that 14-year-olds are necessarily able to make an informed choice. And the state of careers information and guidance in many schools is quite weak nowadays.
All right. Well, what about 16, Alex?
I think potentially 16 is better. But even within that, we tend to narrow the choices quite a lot in both academic and vocational. In France, for example, you would do a more general vocational baccalaureate. So it might be building, but you would do carpentry and bricklaying, all those fundamentals, and you would narrow down over a 3-year period to a skill. Whereas here we would do, maths, physics, chemistry A-level, very narrow, or you would learn bricklaying, and so on and so on. So what we need to do is have a broader-based academic, broader-based technical education. I'm very nervous about young people making decisions which close off life chances early on, because my concern is that middle-class kids with a well-informed parents, they'll be okay. I teach a lot of students from very deprived backgrounds, and it might be that well-intentioned adults and teachers think, do you know what, academic qualifications, university, not for the likes of you. And that's something that we don't want.
No, but Alex, we're almost at this 50% target, aren't we? It was Blair's target. The Cameron years supported it. We're almost at 50%. And don't you agree, Alex, as somebody, and you're teaching young people and pushing them through to university, don't you think in a lot of cases we've got young people who've got academic degree qualifications that are not helping them in the workplace, one iota, and a load of debt on top?
Absolutely. But we can see the same occurring in vocational qualifications. A few years ago, there was a report which said that there were as many people doing entry-level IT technician courses as there were IT technicians in the country. Not the number of vacancies, but literally there's 100,000 kids on IT technician courses and only 25,000 IT.
Well, I tell you what struck me, Alex, tonight in the first half an hour is, the first caller we had tonight, James, the idea that the company sponsors somebody, the government then helps by removing the tuition fees, and I guess in return, anyone benefiting from that system has to promise a few years' service, I guess, to the company. But it strikes me there are some positive ways through. Alex, my one last quick question to you is, Am I right to feel that there is still, and you talk technically about not closing off life chances too early, and I get that, but is there still a snobbery against young people, who, if they want to learn trades and skills?
I think the answer to that question is it varies depending on the sector of society and the person.
Yeah.
Arguably, there are people who are from middle-class backgrounds and well-educated who feel that way very strongly, and that's probably the circles you and I tend to work in. I'm not sure that's as pronounced across all of society.
OK, well, I hope you're right about that. Alex, thank you. Great call. Paul on Facebook says, this country needs more vocational skills and fewer spurious academic nonsenses with made-up subjects like a degree in golf. Calm down, Paul. Carl says, train young people now in technical qualifications and the investment will pay for itself. Angela says, if there aren't enough apprentices, why aren't the firms setting them up? Well, we've heard tonight some evidence that some are. Angela, it should be happening on a huge scale. I agree with you. And Jen says, make the apprentice wage higher than the minimum wage to encourage people to do the apprenticeships. I'm not sure, Jen, that works. But I tell you what I do think. What I really, really do think, absolutely, I'm going to say it again, with the STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, medicine, you can throw mathematics in too. We have a huge shortage of people in this country trained in those subjects, which means we have to import labour from abroad, in many cases taking skilled, trained people away from quite poor countries who could really use their services. And I think for that, we should simply abolish tuition fees. Let's use the market in this sense to drive people with financial incentives to going and learning those subjects that will benefit the whole country. Rick says, if you have a degree You should go to work in a bar or restaurant for 3 years and learn how the world of work actually works. Well, that's an opinion, Rick. I have to say, I didn't go to university. When I left school, about 12% of my age bracket went on to university. That figure has now rocketed to the figure of 49%. Is it any wonder we're having to charge people a lot of money, given the sheer number we're sending? And I just worry that so many youngsters have been conned into going to university when actually the pursuit of academics beyond the age of 18 was not actually in their direct interests. I feel that strongly, and I praise the Prime Minister for standing up and saying what she said today. You never thought you'd hear that, did you, from me? Because I have been quite critical of her. All right, one slight negative. The speech went on forever, and whilst the content wasn't bad, the delivery was dull as ditchwater. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:30, and time for the news with Tim Humphrey.
Police say they hope Barry Bonnell's 30-year jail term will serve as a beacon of light to others that have been abused. The former youth football coach was branded the devil incarnate by a judge as he passed sentence. A paedophile professor could be stripped of his qualifications in a rare move by the University of Cambridge. Officials are looking into a case against Dr. Matthew Falder, who's been jailed for 32 years. It's understood Great Ormond Street Hospital is considering keeping money raised at a men-only charity event last month. It originally announced it will return more than £500,000 after claims of inappropriate behaviour at the President's Club dinner. LBC weather, clear skies in the north tonight, but there will be rain in the south, a low of 6 degrees.
LBC travel on the M25. There is a lane blocked anti-clockwise. That's between Junction 3 for the M20 and Junction 2 for the Darrington interchange. It's because of an accident. On the Finchley Road in North London, there are queues now heading southbound. That's from Henley's Corner. It's because of an accident earlier on. And on the M1, slow moving now northbound between the M25 and Junction 8 for Hemel Hempstead because a lorry has broken down. And on the A13, a lane is closed eastbound at the Five Bells interchange near Basildon because of an accident. LBC travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh.
This is LBC.
GCSEs, A-levels.
For exam success without the stress, only one name stands out. Justin Craig. A Justin Craig Easter course kickstarts revision, consolidates knowledge, boosts confidence and improves exam technique. With over 30 years' experience, Justin Craig has helped more than 100,000 students secure their university place. For Easter revision course details, visit justincraig.ac.uk. Justin Craig, just in time.
Crikey, the boiler's gone again. Cold showers. Oh, I'll have to get someone round and tidy up and get better biscuits. I've only got malted milk. I can't have no shower. I've got Zumba on Wednesday. Relax. Relax. It's Trust a Trader. Bloomin' lovely tradespeople who do the job right. You pop in your postcode and find great tradespeople right on your doorstep. Oh, he's here. Get the party rings out. Visit trustatrader.com.
No more chasing payments. No more having to manually match transactions and invoices. And no more losing customers at online checkouts. In-store, on the move, online and over the phone. Sage takes the pain out of payments. Accounting, payroll and payments. Sage Business Cloud takes care of it all. Get started today. Visit sage.com/get started. Be Sage. Build on.
When the Harrison family had a smart meter installed, they weren't entirely sure whereabouts in the home they'd be able to save energy. But they were determined to get gas and lecky under control. With the help of the handy in-home display, it didn't take long to see which energy guzzlers were costing the most money. Aha! Now gas and lecky don't stand a chance. The Harrisons are determined to keep their energy waste to a minimum. Contact your energy supplier today about getting your smart meter at no extra cost.
Are electric cars okay for long journeys? Are there any tax benefits to having them on my fleet?
Are they easy to drive?
Can they go off-road?
Do they keep their value?
Are they any good on motorways? Can you drive them at night?
Can they go up hills?
How many photocopiers can I fit in the back of one?
Got questions about adding electric cars to your fleet? Get the answers at goultralow.com.
The transfer window may be closed, but at Football Index you can still buy and sell top players for real cash. Football Index is the player trading exchange where you can profit from your football knowledge from as little as £10. Trade up to £1,000. And if you don't love Football Index, get a refund with our 7-day money-back guarantee. Visit gofootballindex.co.uk and become a football trader today. Powered by Opta. Over 18s and new customers only. Deposit required. Other terms apply. Gamble responsibly.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
An academic degree course for those who are suited to it is the right thing to do, but I do not believe it's right for nearly 50% of the population, and I'm amazed today to find out that the Prime Minister thinks the same thing too. More emphasis needed, she feels, on trades and skills, and a way must be found to make sure that those who really are too scared of racking up these massive debts, who come perhaps from poorer families, are still going to university if they're the right ones. But bit of a change of tack from the White House, which I think is very interesting. So we had this appalling shooting that took place last Thursday, 17 school children killed in that St Valentine's Day massacre. We debated it last week. At the time, I said to you that I thought the big story would be that Nicholas Cruz had been reported to the FBI and they frankly hadn't done the job, and sure, that is being debated in America. But what perhaps has surprised me slightly is a real change in tack from the White House, with the press secretary, Sarah Sanders, making clear that the president is supportive of efforts to improve the federal background check system. So this has been an administration under Trump that has been characterized in many, many ways with deregulation, getting rid of excessive bureaucracy, red tape, state interference, federal interference. But here's an example where I think the president's about to go in a different direction. And actually, you know, whether it's this, whether it's trophies from big game from Africa, this is a president who is capable, from time to time, of changing his mind. And I think we're going to see a slightly different debate. As I've already said, whatever you do with controls on those who buy guns, you won't stop the fact there are vast amounts of guns still in circulation in America. But politically, I think an interesting change. Back to our subject. The perception of apprenticeships I've seen is that they're limiting. There needs to be more emphasis on experience, not just exams, says Ali. I liked your caller James earlier. I studied engineering at uni on a 4-year part-time course. Unfortunately, employers in this field are only interested in degree qualified candidates. We're hearing this a bit tonight, aren't we? So for me, it was a necessity. However, I hardly use any of the course content in my day-to-day job other than a line on the CV. It was a waste of 4 years, says Darren. Well, Darren, that is the culture that the Prime Minister was talking about today. This outdated, as she called it, idea that having a degree is the be-all and end-all. And in your case, Darren, you've got the degree, you're not using it, you feel you've wasted 4 years of your life, and that is sad. Matt is a new caller from Liverpool. Good evening, Matt.
Good evening, Nigel. Did you have a nice weekend off?
I did. Thank you very much indeed. I really did. And anyone looking at me on Facebook Live or Periscope can see that I've had a little bit of sun. So, yeah.
Wonderful. I kind of agree with you that, yeah, they have been devalued. I think culturally and economically, you're right there. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Fine. So what do we do then, Matt? Would it make sense? Would it make sense to send fewer people to university, and the fewer we send, the less we charge them for tuition fees, albeit accepting there is a degree of subsidy there anyway?
I happen to think the likes of Sir James Dyson have the right idea, because I think the line between apprenticeships and academic education is going to become blurred. When you think of a mechanic repairing, a VW Golf with an internal combustion engine, that's not going to be the same thing in 20 years. They're all going to be Teslas and electric cars with proprietary tech in them that you can't repair without some kind of degree in electronic engineering or whatever. So I think there needs to be, apprenticeships should be prioritised, but they need to be restructured to prepare people for what the future is going to look like.
So you think the lines will start to become blurred then between?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, Matt, I get that point. It's a very good point. But do you need to actually physically go to university to do this, or could?
No, I don't think so.
No. I know that JCB, that Lord Bamford, has actually got his own engineering school up in Staffordshire, and I wonder whether that's perhaps the way to deal with this.
Well, yeah, and Dyson, I know he's integrated a university into it with the University of Warwick, but it's kind of a similar idea, isn't it? Okay, you've got to demonstrate some kind of academic aptitude.
Yes.
But he's getting them in, and he's turning them into engineers with real work on the shop floor. You know, rather than stuffing them into a classroom. So that's what I mean by blurring the lines. You know, a future mechanic is going to need to know more stuff about integrated circuits and things like that, and all that kind of
Matt,
stuff.
you're right. And you know, I mean, I don't know about you, Matt, or anyone listening, but now, you know, when one of the lights goes, one of the side lights goes on your car, have you tried yourself to open the bonnet and put a new bulb in? I mean, it's virtually impossible. So I do get the point about the blurring of the lines. Good point, good call. Modern degree courses are too long, too easy and too expensive. In many cases, they do not even lead to getting a decent job. Not everyone is suited to going to university. As a retired engineer, I value tradesmen very highly, says Ian. It's about time we invested in people skills again. It creates productivity and stimulates industry and trade, says David. Yes, David, and I suspect that it might just actually give a lot of young people a pride in themselves and what they've done, rather than the quite significant numbers of young people in their 20s that I've come across who actually, post the university experience, feel slightly alienated from almost everything. They feel they were conned into going to university and it hasn't really helped them. There are lots and lots of you out there that feel like that, I know. Simon is a new caller from Durham. Good evening, Simon.
Good evening, Nigel. How are you?
I'm well. I'm actually very happy, Simon, that you know, yet another issue that I was talking about, and of course being lambasted for with everything I've ever done. But it looks like it is now becoming a mainstream debate, and that can only be a good thing, in my view.
Yeah, I agree. I started out my working career, if you like, actually at college, so before working career.
Simon, that line is rubbish. So we're going to cut you off and get you back in a moment. Meanwhile, we'll move to South Shields, to Martin, another new caller to this show. Good evening, Martin.
Good evening, Nigel. Yeah.
So, come on, what's your experience, Martin?
You know what? First of all, I think anyone who goes to university just to prove they're better than other people, I don't think they should be going to university. I don't think it's like that. I went a bit later than most people. I went at 26.
Yeah.
That was because I had talent, I had passion, I come from a working class background, I used every means in the book to get myself there, from access to higher education before that was all cut. I went for it, Nigel, and you know what? Whatever happens, life is a gamble, going to university is a gamble. I did it to better myself, not to prove I was better than anyone else.
But you did it, Martin, as you say, a bit later, sort of 7 or 8 years later than most people did. So
that was because for 6 years I spent running a social enterprise to help people, disadvantaged people with mental health problems.
Okay, no, well, good for you, is all I can say to that. But Martin, you thought about this, you made a big decision, and by the sounds of it, some sacrifices to go to university at 26. An awful lot of 19-year-olds are going to university because it's almost kind of expected of them.
Right, they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that. They should use their brains and honestly think what. You know, it is a gamble, Nigel. We are a capitalist country, and like if you leave university and you can't get a job in it, you know, you might be in McDonald's. That might be how it goes. So I'm the same. We're all the same. I just have to re-emphasise that point.
No, you've made that point very, very well. Don't go to university, folks, for the sake of it. Martin from South Shields says it's the wrong thing, and perhaps that's why there are quite a lot of people who, in the world of work after university, are not earning the £21,000 a year at which the student loans have to start being repaid. That threshold, by the way, is going up to £25,000 a year. But of course right now, if you've just left university, you've got your first job, you will pay 9% of your pay, over £21,000, back as part of the student loan. Oh, and with an interest rate of 6.1%. I mean, talk about conning people into something, and they finish up with this debt wrapped round their neck, and they're paying off these loans, they're in good jobs, but after their tax and national insurance, another 9% is disappearing. Quite painful for a lot of young people. Perhaps not surprising that so few of them are getting onto the housing ladder. I don't know. We're going back to Durham, back to Simon. Let's hear how the line is. Good evening, Simon.
Hello, Nigel. Sorry about that.
That's better. That's better. Far away.
Good. Yeah, so at school, it was always, for me, it was always a case of being told by careers people that you must go to college, you must do well, you must go to university. And I tried college for a year, and I have to say it just wasn't for me. I didn't feel as I was getting anything. I was then lucky enough to get offered a place as an electrical apprentice at a power station.
Yep.
And at the time, I suppose, in a way, I took it for granted. It was good. I had money coming in the account, and I was doing a bit of a job, and I wasn't away from home and all this good stuff. But then, very rapidly, I realised how lucky I was. I was getting a trade. 4 years later, I bought a house. This is while I still had friends at university.
Yep.
So I reaped quite a lot of rewards, and from then, within 11, 12 years, I've now got a management position. And at school, if you want to do well and you want to be a manager, you've got to.
And you've done it all. You've done it all without going to university, Simon, haven't you?
Yeah, and I think the most important thing for me is I've learnt to work. I've learnt how to work. And I see a lot of people coming out of university and that, they're fighting for jobs, but also when they do get a foot in the door and they do get a job, they almost struggle with that transition from education to the workplace. And I think those are skills that you cannot buy. It doesn't matter how much you spend on a degree.
Simon, I'm never ever going to slag off people going to university, getting degrees if they're people who are right for further academic endeavour, but an awful lot of people aren't, and I'm with you. I think experience counts for a hell of a lot. And my careers office at my school, Simon, said I should become an auctioneer. I reckon they were probably right. I'd rather have enjoyed that. Simon,
I mean, for me, that it was a funeral director. So
was it?
Two totally different paths.
Yeah. You never know where we're going in life. Simon, I thank you, and Simon's point about getting a foot in the door, learning something, being reliable, getting promoted. Lots of ways in life to succeed. You don't just have to get a degree in an ology somewhere, and lots of debt with it. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:46.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
New figures suggest millions of people are underestimating how many calories they're consuming. So is the government's calorie-based approach the right way to tackle obesity?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Come to Galliard for new London apartments from under £300,000. Jessica House is well located, just a 12-minute walk to Wandsworth Town Station, just one stop from Clapham Junction, and it takes only a minute longer to walk to the Tube at East Putney. These superbly specified studio and one-bedroom apartments benefit from daytime concierge and secure parking. To buy in London from under £300,000, come to 191 Wandsworth High Street, SW18 4LS, from 5 p.m. on Friday the 23rd of February till 5 p.m. on Sunday 25th. Call 0203 770 6300 or visit galliardhomes.com. Galliard, getting Londoners on the ladder. Parking at additional cost.
Do you spit blood when you brush? You could be on a journey to much worse.
Next stop, bad breath, receding gums, final destination, tooth loss.
If you spit blood, you may have gum disease. Ignore it and you could be on a journey to much worse. Switch to Corsadil Ultra Clean toothpaste. When used twice daily, it's 4 times more effective than a regular toothpaste at removing the buildup of bacteria, the main cause of bleeding gums. Help leave bleeding gums behind. Corsadil Ultra Clean helps stop and prevent bleeding gums.
Your future is here. The Global Academy, a forward-thinking state school for 14 to 19-year-olds interested in a media career. Visit globalacademy.com to find out more.
Do you have a pension? Maybe you've got more than one. How do you know if they're in the right pension funds, making as much money as possible for your retirement? Answer is, you probably don't. At The Pension Works, our fully qualified independent financial advisors could add instant value to your retirement fund. Simply text the word YES to 83222 for your free Pension Works health check. That's YES to 83222 today. Your pensions, working harder with The Pension Works.
Crikey, the boiler's gone again. Cold showers. Oh, I'll have to get someone round and tidy up and get better biscuits. I've only got malted milk. I can't have no shower. I've got Zumba on Wednesday. Relax. It's Trust a Trader. Bloomin' lovely tradespeople who do the job right. You pop in your postcode and find great tradespeople right on your doorstep. Oh, he's here! Get the party rings out! Visit trustatrader.com.
Apparently, there are still some people who say they don't want to apply for an Ocean credit card. That's amazing, because there's a credit limit of up to £1,500. Text so you keep control of your spending, and you can see if you'll be accepted before you apply at checkocean.co.uk without affecting your credit rating. But I know the real reason people say they don't want to apply, because they've already got one. To apply for an Ocean credit card, go to checkocean.co.uk. Intelligent Lending Limited is a credit broker. Capital One is the exclusive lender.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Should more youngsters learn trades and skills? Are we sending too many people to university who are racking up too much debt? But before I go back to that, I have to comment on the leader of Her Majesty's loyal opposition, one Jeremy Corbyn. Now, there was a story that broke in the Sun newspaper last week. The story was a couple of interviews that had been done with a man called Jan Sarkozy, a former Czech spy, and he claimed that he was the MP's handler, Corbyn's handler, during the 1980s when he worked for his country's communist secret service. He says that Jeremy Corbyn even had a code name. He was known as Agent Cobb. He also went on to say that other senior figures in the Labour movement were well known to him and others in their spy circle. He went even further than that and alleged that payments of up to £10,000 were made to some of these people. Now, look, I do not know whether any of this is true or not. I do know that the hard left in this country had this almost romantic attachment to Soviet communism, even though it was a complete and total failure in so many ways. But what is remarkable is how little conversation there is about this. I mean, this fella could be our next Prime Minister. And yet the BBC, until today, when Theresa May has said that Jeremy Corbyn should be open over the spy's claims, the BBC website this morning, when we looked at it, had no mention of this. And I bet you, through many forms of media, you've not heard or seen much debate about this. Can you imagine if a Soviet agent, in fact a Russian agent, who works for Putin, said he'd formally met Nigel Farage 3 times last year, and it was commonplace for money to change hands between their friends in the West through whatever bank account it may be? Can you imagine in those circumstances The Guardian and the BBC websites being quiet? As it is, I'm accused of passing memory sticks between President Trump and Julian Assange stuck down there in the Ecuadorian embassy. And I do really sometimes wonder about institutional bias that does exist within large parts of the media in this country to those of a left-of-centre disposition. And I think it's really interesting that whilst Jeremy Corbyn's spokesman has categorically denied this. In fact, we've been told that Mr. Sarkozy's story has more plot holes in it than a bad James Bond movie. Well, it's a great line. I mean, whoever the press officer that dreamt that up, it's good stuff. But can we please hear from Mr. Corbyn himself? Because I'm sure I'd be hounded down the street if apparently I'd met some official, however junior he or she may have been. Back to our subject, back to the big debate. University, vocational education, the £9,250 a year that people are racking up. Is it worth it? I'm going to ask Ellie, a new caller from Camden, that very question.
Hiya, I'm from Camden. I'm Ellie. I am in my 3rd year of uni at the moment.
Yeah.
I studied history.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst I was in school, they were my teachers, all the educational people. They were telling me, you have to go to university. You have to. There's no other choices. They weren't promoting apprenticeships. They weren't promoting any other skilled kind of thing to go into. And then now I'm in 3rd year of uni, I'm applying for graduate schemes. I've got amazing qualifications in A-levels, but I'm not getting the job because I don't have any experience.
Oh, really? So that way round?
So I've I have friends that chose not to go to uni. They've gone straight into work or they've gone into apprenticeship, and they're in a better position than I am. And now I feel like, you know, university, you finish university, you're actually struggling. There's so many people that aren't able to get jobs, and a lot of my friends at uni, we're all applying to things and we can't get anything.
Wow. So that's a bit demoralising, Ellie, with your finals coming up and all that.
Yeah, you know, it's on my mind. I'm struggling, and I can't. It's hard to concentrate on uni when you're constantly thinking, "Am I going to be able to get a job?" There's this build up to it, and I feel like now at university there are so many people now struggling to.
Well, I tell you what, Ellie, really important thing in life sometimes is to really focus and concentrate on the job at hand, rather than worrying what comes later, or you won't do as good a job right now as you could. So I think, you know, you're there. You're halfway through your third year. For goodness sake, make sure you get the best degree you possibly can. I think that's really important. But it's very interesting that you're kind of, you know, you're another one, and there are loads of you. You're told at 18 there basically isn't any alternative.
Yeah, there wasn't. There was no alternative told to us. You have to go to uni or you're basically going to fail. You won't be able to get a job. All employees want you to have a degree, and that's not the case. And I just wish there was someone when I was 18 years old to tell me that, because if I could go back now, I would not do a degree, because I'm going to leave now with a large amount of debt that I'm going to struggle to pay off for the rest of my life. And it just wasn't worth it. I could be in a better position now if I chose not to go to university. But like I said, there was so much pressure around me at such a young age to do it. And I'm from a working class background. My parents are from working class background. There's this thing, make your parents proud, make the school proud. But really, it's not making anyone better, and it's not putting me in a better position.
Ellie, thank you for the frankness and honesty of that call. And as I say, don't get too down about it. Do your absolute best in these last few months. But yeah, pretty depressing. Are you listening, Mr. Blair? Arbitrary targets, the idea that people just going to university en masse, basically not giving them much option at sixth form, and this is what it's led to. And I feel very sorry for Ellie, but I have to say I have met over the last few years hundreds and hundreds of young people like her who feel they were effectively forced into doing this, not given other options. Keith says, "Hi Nigel, my son left school halfway through his further education. He got himself a job with an electrical engineer. He's on good money and starts his apprenticeship beginning of next month. He will have his qualifications at the end of it with no debt." Vicky says, "Some employers only want graduates from certain universities." Vicky, I think that's right. I think that as the number of universities have expanded, I think the employers are getting a bit more picky, which once again backs up the point of view that those who are not particularly academically inclined should not be encouraged at 18 to go on to further education. They'd be far better off getting experience or learning trades and skills. Folks, that's what I think. That's my view. Gilly said they should never have done away with the technical colleges. Well, they did, Gilly, and many of them became universities. Amber is calling from Cheltenham. Good evening, Amber.
Good evening, Nigel. Well, my opinion is that the education system is completely out of sync with the future development of technology and production, and no politicians are being truthful about the number of jobs that are going to disappear with the robotics revolution. And we have a two-tier university system developing. The high-level degrees from the high-level unis, and the rest are being encouraged to do arts courses, like the young girl who phoned in.
Yeah.
Scores, thousands and thousands of students are coming out after doing art courses and haven't got a hope in hell of getting a job. If they're lucky, they end up filling the shelves in Tesco's. That's if they're lucky. Loads of them are out of work and haven't got much chance of getting work.
Amber, I think you're absolutely right. And by the way, your comment about robotisation and what that may well mean for the whole workplace over the next few years is worthy of a debate of itself. Been a great debate tonight. Thank you to all of you for contributing. I do sense the tide is turning. There's a now much healthier debate about people learning trades and skills. Thank goodness. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'll be back tomorrow at 7. At 10 tonight, it's Ian Collins. But up next, it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you.